then tonight we're really excited to have on my former teammate. He played at Warren De La Salle for high school, was a very high rated recruit coming out of high school, went to Michigan, played 3 seasons at Michigan with Harbaugh, with Hoke, and then transferred to Central Michigan, and then had a pro career as well. And we're excited to have on quarterback Shane Morris. How you doing tonight, Shane?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited.
Of
We're
course.
excited to
Thanks for
have you
coming
on,
on.
man.
Yeah. So, hey, just jumping right into it. Like, I think first question we kind of want to ask about is, you got a lot of attention through your recruiting process, probably, upper echelon of any top rated recruit during your class. What was it like kind of dealing with that? All of the, options that you had on the table, all of the people hitting you up, the pressure that kind of goes with that. And, how did you kind of carry that through, your college career as well?
Yeah, so I leaned on a lot of people, really. It started early for me. I got my first offer from Cincinnati when I was a sophomore in high school. So, being fresh 16 years old, just driver's license, and then, getting some attention from colleges, getting, full scholarship, kind of realizing your dreams as a kid and growing up playing football is finally like kind of coming to light, and that opportunity is going to be there. As it went on, it got a little bit crazy, but I leaned on my parents. My dad was a football coach my entire life. My mother, keeping me humble, and then Coach Verska and the staff, Ron Bonner, did a great job of kind of knocking me down when I got a little bit too high, and just helped me kind of guide me through the whole process. But yeah, it was interesting. It was a lot of attention coming from a lot of different angles. A lot of different things you're being told from recruiters and colleges that at the age I'm at, I believe a lot of it, right? And then you kind of go through it, and you're starting to realize a lot. You got to kind of take it for what it's worth when these guys are, their lives are on the line to get a guy to go to the school. Kind of a lot of them will say whatever they need to.
Sure, yeah, whispering some sweet nothings into your ear, trying to,
And
to get you to come play for
do.
him.
They all do.
Yeah.
Shane, that leads to this, and this is one of the questions I really looked forward to asking you, because the recruiting world has changed a lot since you and I both were recruited, right? Obviously, I was a walk-on, you were a 4 or 5 star recruit, very different. But in today's world with NIL and what that looks like, and just seeing some of the amount of money that's being offered to kids that were just like you, not too long ago, like does that almost make you like, man, I missed out on like $1 million contract offer when I was 15 years old? Or are you just, do you think it could ruin the sport like college football, like the integrity of the game? Where are you at with the NIL? And do you ever think about like what that would have been like? You already admitted like the pressure that you had and the stress and stuff going through it without the money, but you think about now those kids are getting introduced to maybe millions of dollars at age 16. Like you said, you just got a driver's license. What do you think of the whole NIL thing?
Yeah, the whole NIL thing. I feel a little bit of it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Like, obviously, I think you deserve to be paid for your name, your image, your likeness. Just jerseys sold, um, posters, all the licensing stuff that goes around. If the school is promoting you singularly, for the university, I think you do deserve to make money from that. I do think NIL has gotten out of control a little bit. I believe that a lot of schools are not using it for what it was created for, which is
Using
kind of
it,
what I
man.
was just said. But
Yeah.
a lot of it's being abused, and I guess SEC schools have been doing this for a long time, and that's
For
kind of
sure.
it's kind of known knowledge. Finding donors and dropping bags off or whatever it may be.
Cam Newton
But
got away with it. LSU
yeah,
just got in trouble with doing that for both basketball and
yeah,
football.
so it's been going on for a very long time, and most people know that. And now it's, I guess it's morphed into a way that is, it's legal now. So in that level for a lot of schools, it's just going to get a lot worse. I talked to Jared Wangler a lot. I don't know if you guys are familiar. He
Yeah.
started the group called Valiant, which kind of oversees and runs a large portion of the NIL for the University of Michigan, not just along football, but for every sport as well. And he's doing an incredible job. And the thing about Michigan is they're doing it a lot differently. They're doing it as a collective to where They're getting money coming in from donors. They're kind of splitting it up. They have a board of advisors, from top companies around the world sitting on this board for this group deciding, what's the best way for this money to go out. Like JJ McCarthy, he's a Heisman, preseason. He's on the list. He's probably going to go, he's probably going to get drafted. He's going to have a decision here after this year if he wants to go to the NFL or stay another year. NIL, hopefully, it's getting those guys to stay another year. Really.
Yeah. I mean, Blake Corum just chose to stay, right? And
so, yeah, the whole collective and everything, it's doing a great job of giving kids that option, of staying another year and making money. And, JJ's not going to be making $3 million a year because that's not the way Michigan's going to do it, because it's not the smart way. It doesn't have longevity, and it's not going to last, really. Like these things that, these donors are giving $2 million to a singular kid out of high school, and that kid leaves, the next year, that donor's not going to give any more money. Like, he's like, what do you mean? Like, unless, I don't know, maybe he is, but yeah, I just don't think it can last. Second part of the question, yeah, I wish I was. I wish I was born a couple years later. That's for sure. But I don't know. If you would have gave me $1 million my freshman year of college, I don't know if it would have been the best thing for me.
What would that first purchase have been? Like a dream car, or like just a trip to Vegas?
Know.
What do you think? Like,
I don't even think I was in that mindset. Graduating high school, I was thinking about, maybe instead of getting Busch Light, we got a Bud Light. So
yeah, exactly.
All right, not Bud Light right now, but
yeah, exactly. That was like what was going through your head and that's what these kids are thinking about coming out of college, and they're like, oh, but here's $1 million with that mindset. It's like, they're thinking, oh, I don't have to buy Bud Light. I can go, I can go get whatever I want. Like, it's crazy to me.
Yeah, information's a lot more readily available, I guess, these days too. So kids are a lot smarter than we were coming out of high school. Like, a lot of these guys that are like Blake Corum, he's investing in multifamily real estate.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys are just investing money with mentors that are coming in and helping. At least at the University of Michigan, these guys are coming in and help these kids. Investment, and then also realizing that, like, you're gonna have to pay taxes on this, and that was a big problem last year.
Exactly. And that's what Harbaugh just came out and said too. I mean, they have the top recruiting class currently right now. And, one of the reasons for that is obviously like what you just said, Shane, like they're handling it different than the rest of, like, yes, they have the money and the funding that a lot of these other schools have, but the way they're using it and, teaching these kids how to make more money off of that small amount of money they're giving them in the grand scheme of things, educating them, helping them be smart with their money so that they make more in the long run. I don't think a lot of other schools are doing that. And I think that kids and parents especially see the value in that and are like, okay, we want to send our kid to the University of Michigan because they're doing this, and LSU, Alabama, USC, they're just offered us flat out cash. And there's a difference,
Yeah. And like opening the floodgates with it, as you're referencing right now, like, I think like, okay, you open the floodgates and everybody's like, oh, this isn't sustainable. Now we got to figure this out. And it's like, there wasn't any rules to begin with. But the point that you made is really interesting, because now it's like, at this point, there might be, a growing market for just agencies at the college level now, where they have people helping them manage their money, managing their brand, managing their relationships with advertisers and things like that. That entire thing was, didn't exist at all 3-4 years ago. And now that market probably could be just about as big as the NFL's market.
It happened overnight too.
People. Right.
Yeah. I mean, it happened pretty quickly. There was an idea of it with Ed O'Bannon, kind of that whole lawsuit when, they were going to be monetizing players. Jared and a couple other these guys started the process of thinking like, this is real. This could happen, and it could happen pretty soon. Let's get a head start on that. And that's why Jared's been so successful, because he was one of the first players in that space. And I'm just so proud of him. He's killing it. He's doing such a great job.
Yeah, I've seen what he's done. I thought it was such a cool idea when I first saw him launch that. And obviously the second I saw it, I told my dad, I was like, this is going to be a success. I mean, there's going to be a huge market for this. And it will continue to grow. Honestly, I think it will continue to grow. It can only get better. But speaking of committing and all these kids going to Michigan, you had a lot of options. There's not many schools you can name that weren't one of your options at the time coming out of high school. Why Michigan? What was the main reason you chose to go there above all your other options, and just talk about your time there and some of the highlights.
Yeah, I grew up a Michigan fan. My family was Michigan fans. I was, first grade pictures, I was wearing a Michigan jersey. Always was in Michigan stuff. I had a customized jersey that was my uncle's that he gave to me. It had Morris on the back that I would wear around. So it was kind of always a dream of mine to like play quarterback at the University of Michigan. That was, ever since I was in, fourth, fifth grade playing football, wanting to play in college. And that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to play football. I wanted to play quarterback at University of Michigan. So that's what I worked for. And started getting all these offers, and then sophomore year, high school, late in sophomore year, I got offered by the University of Michigan. I also got a few other offers at that time, Michigan State, Alabama, some other big schools, and I just knew like that came off that big Sugar Bowl win that year. They were, building something special. Coach Hoke was there; he was doing a great job. They had some players. The quarterback room looked favorable for me at that time. Denard was leaving. Devin had one more year left, and the line was coming back, and things were lining up for me. They didn't take a quarterback the year before me in the recruiting class, so I just kind of stars aligned for me, and fell in love with the staff, fell in love with the university, everything about it, the school curriculum. Obviously, it's not a 4-year degree. They always say it's a 40-year degree. So
Yeah.
it just felt like the right fit for me. It was the right people in the recruiting class. I mean, I was just at Ben Gideon's wedding last weekend, and all of my entire house is standing up. We're still best friends, and there's 7 of us, and it's very, very rare to see.
Yeah.
Those were the guys that stood up at my wedding last year, and we just kind of make the rounds, and we're still super, super close. Fox is having a kid, so it's our like the first one from our group, having a baby, a little girl. So it's crazy to see, but I think it was the right decision for me, although it was maybe didn't work out the way I wanted it to on the field.
Yeah, and I mean, kind of like getting into, the idea that like a lot of athletes, or really just anybody that has a passion in the first place, I think they kind of expect going into things like progress is just up and to the right, right? And if I keep working at it, it's just going to keep going like this. And I think, a lot of people find out pretty quickly, like that's not how things work. There can be adversities, there can be setbacks. You had to deal with a coaching change, and then you ended up transferring somewhere else, but you still came out on top with a lot of it. How does, managing that adversity through your college career and just kind of, keep coming back, staying at it, and finding, new ways to be successful? And, how would you kind of, I guess, communicate that message to somebody that's in your shoes as a sophomore or junior in high school, kind of getting that same attention now?
Yeah, it's not easy. I would say that first of all, it's not easy. It's never going to be easy, and it's not going to get easier throughout the entire process. The recruiting process is hard, and it was hard for me, and that was really, kind of just the start of social media when I was going through it. Twitter was just becoming a thing. Instagram was fairly new. TikTok was not real. So there was this. We were kind of the first group, and I've talked to Max Brown. He's talked about it before as well. We were really that first group that kind of came through with social media, and where it was big. I was a junior and senior in high school, like 20,000 followers on Twitter, and it was just kind of like mind-boggling because you had this reach, right? It was like outside of your own community. You were able to now reach the entire country, other fan bases, other people. So you're getting all this attention from everybody, and there was no map on how to guide us through that because it's never happened before. So we were trying to, figure out our way to weave through this crazy time that was happening that no one's ever seen before. And yeah, I probably made some mistakes, got involved with it a little bit too much, looked at it too much, read too many tweets about myself, but it's hard not to, right? Because you got all
It's
these
right
people
there on
talk,
your phone. Yeah.
got all these people talking about you, right? That you never met before, and that's never really happened before. No one knows how to deal with it, and I especially didn't. But going through that, you get to freshman year of college, and you get in the locker room, and none of that shit matters. It's
Yeah.
it's it's all over. You get all these seniors, and they're like, they don't care how many Twitter followers you got, TikTok followers you got. You got to show up every day, work your butt off in the weight room first. Be a leader by example, and then play well on the field and show up every day.
Yeah.
So
It
yeah,
still probably was like a culture shock though, where it's like you said, like somebody you've never met before, probably doesn't have enough profile picture that's actually their face going and like critiquing
Back when
like
it was just
college
the egg.
athletes.
When it would just
Yeah,
be like the
Yeah,
egg,
yeah. Like,
the
who the
egg
hell are
picture.
you?
Yeah.
yeah. You got all these people talking crap about you from all over the place, and you got to like
Well,
find a way to deal with that. So
it's not all in vain though, because you had one moment that blew up for the right reasons. Or I remember seeing this exact celebration clip maybe 100 times back when this game happened. It was freaking awesome.
You got to tell us if you like, did you see that somewhere else?
Nope.
Did you plan that you were going to do that? Like, or was that
No.
just in the heat of the moment? Like you're just so excited after throwing like a game winning touchdown pass.
Yeah, honestly, I've talked to my dad about it before. He's like, what was that? And I was like, honestly, I don't know. I think it was just everything that was built up, like from the past 5 years. The three head coaches I had, the four offensive coordinators, in 5 years, four completely different offenses. The issues with injuries and things like that, and not really seeing success on the field at Michigan. We here and there it was great, but not what I wanted to, not what my expectations were when I committed there and when I got there. So I think just everything that was that Central Michigan season, I felt that it was kind of like a last chance for me, but also it was an opportunity for me to play and really enjoy myself and get on the field, and that right there, that fourth quarter drive, that game winning touchdown to Corey Willis over the middle. I think it was just kind of like the culmination of like everything that's
So
ever
much.
happened and just let up, and
Yeah.
I just I don't know, I just let loose, and I know after the game I was just crying. It was just kind of like tears of joy, dude. It was.
I remember what it was like too, like when you first, when I first saw that you were coming to Central, right? Because I had known you a little bit, way back before. Actually, ran routes with you back at quarterback 360, which Shane's dad, Ron Bonnet, and some other guys helped run, and it's basically quarterback training here in Warren, Michigan, but basically the greater Detroit area. They've helped out a lot of great young kids develop their game, and Shane obviously was one of them. And in his early time at Michigan, came back and helped and was throwing. And I was there with my quarterback in high school at the time. And I don't know if you remember, Shane, but you didn't have a receiver that day. So I ran double routes, ran for my guy, ran for you, and ripped my glove with just an absolute late. I mean, there was, you wonder why Shane had all of the recruiters and the ratings coming out of high school and then going into Michigan because he had a rocket of an arm. And I had heard about it and I was like, oh yeah, I'm sure he does. And then when you actually try to catch that ball the first time, when you're used to catching like a normal average high school quarterback's throw, literally ripped my glove. Still to this day, the only quarterback that's ever done that. And I've thrown with, I've caught balls from a lot of different guys. But yeah, I mean, then you came to Central, and so it was cool to kind of finally team up with you again, and it just feel like the stars aligned for you, obviously, and then for CMU as well. I mean, we, had a couple good years before you got there, but I think you really took the program and gave us an awesome season and a bowl game berth and beating our rival in Western the way that you did, stuff like that. It all leads back to what was the decision to go to CMU above? I'm sure you had a lot of other options as well, grad transfer. What was the choice for CMU? What was the reason behind that?
A lot of factors went into it. It was, pretty calculated decision that I had with my family and some other people that were helping advise me in the whole situation. It was really what's your goal here? What do you want out of this? And like, how are you going to do it? And for me, it was I want to play. So I want to go to the place that's going to be the best opportunity to play, but I also want to play well. So I want to go to a team that's going to, hopefully have some pieces there that I'm going to be able to succeed with, a good team, a good offensive line, good receivers, a good defense, and some people who I knew as well. So Coach Verska was on staff at that time, who was my high school football coach at De La Salle, was a kind of an advisor or, a helper on the staff at Central Michigan because he was very close with Coach John Bonamego. And then Josh Sinagoga was a GA. So he was a quarterback at De La Salle a few years before me, who I built a very good relationship with, and I'm still very good friends with to this day. So I had some people there, and then I also had Josh Cox on the team, who was one of my best friends from De La Salle. So there was people there I was familiar with, people that I knew they would look out for me. I wouldn't just be, another guy, like something went wrong, they would just kind of throw me under the bus. And then obviously the team we had that year was awesome. We had Tyler Conklin, who's still playing now. He's playing for the Jets. Had Corey Willis, who was a phenomenal receiver. Mark Chapman, who was the first overall pick in the CFL draft. Brandon Childress, who was great. Jonathan Ward, who's still in the NFL. Joey Osman. I mean, the list goes on with like Sean Bunting.
Yeah,
we had a great team. And all these players, and especially from a MAC team that are still playing in the NFL or had an opportunity to at that point. We had a great team, and we had some injuries at the beginning of the year, but we fought through them. And then once we were healthy in that middle of the season, we were doing
really
some special things.
We started to roll. You mentioned a lot of names, and it's so funny. We've had Bono on as a guest. We've had Conklin on as a guest. So it's just it's funny to see. It kind of it all comes full circle. But one of the coolest games, I think, and it didn't end up going our way, but we played against Josh Allen in Wyoming that year in the Idaho Potato Bowl. And what was that like? And obviously at the time, people kind of had some hype around Josh Allen, but I didn't think he'd end up being as good as he is today. I remember seeing him. We went and actually bowled like at the bowling alley like a couple days before our game as one of like the things. Josh was bowling and was a freak bowler, of course, just good at everything. But he didn't like his like stature. He didn't like stand out to me. Like I didn't think when I saw him, I wasn't like impressed. You know what I mean? And then he came out and just torched us in the game. But what was that like? Kind of preparing to like play against a guy who was getting projected to be a top 5 pick, and obviously the comparisons of the quarterbacks naturally happens, and what a cool opportunity that was. Playing that game.
Yeah, that was. They had a really, really good team that year, which was kind of underrated because we watched a lot of the Oregon tape. I remember leading up to it, and Oregon, diced them up, right? They're throwing the ball over the field, kind of doing some things that we felt we, had, the ability to do. But looking back on it, the quarterback was Justin Herbert. So no one really realized that at the time. Like, this guy's going to be one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. No wonder he's dicing up this defense.
Right.
So that defense was sick. They had a bunch of guys going to NFL, but Josh, especially watching him, he didn't play a ton that year. He was hurt. They weren't sure he was going to play in the bowl game. Well, he was supposed to be a top draft pick. Why would he play? He hurt his stock, blah, blah, blah. So decided to play. So we're watching him warm up on the field. I'm like, well, he's a big guy, but, he hasn't played a lot. And the film he did play that year didn't really do that well.
Wasn't great,
yeah. Struggled a little bit. So I'm like, all right, we got this. So we go on the field. I think we fumbled the first drive, whatever it was. And then they get the ball, I think is on their own 40. And standing on the sideline watching the game, it's 0-0. He drops back, take a 7-step drop. Stands back there, takes 2 hitches, and throws one of the best passes I've ever seen in my entire life on a deep
exactly
post.
Which one you're talking about.
Over the top of like 3 safeties on an absolute line in perfect stride to his receiver for a touchdown. I looked at it, I was like, oh. I looked at everyone around me, I was like, fuck.
Yeah,
this guy's legit. Like, this guy is good. And then obviously the rest of that game, breaking tackles all over the place, coming up big on third downs. I did not play well that game. We had a lot of turnovers. But the game should have been a little bit closer than it was. But you can't. His credit is due. He is an awesome player, obviously, from what he's done now, but he played really well in that game against us.
I just remember, obviously, that throw, just like my jaw dropped watching that thing go in the air. And then what really surprised me was his athleticism. Like, he was making the dudes that Shane and I practiced against every day look silly. And I'm like, these are really good players that he's making look bad. And Josh doesn't look like he's making Mike Dana, another pro guy. Yeah,
two All-Americans, like
making him look silly.
Throwing him off.
I'm like, it was freaky stuff. And after that game, he warranted the hype to me. And when he got drafted high, it made sense. And seeing him now as on the cover of Madden as of a few weeks ago, like, crazy how it goes from him starting against us in a Idaho Potato Bowl to he's one of the best players in football, period. So
yeah, he deserves it. He's a hell of a player. Works hard. He's doing things the right way in the community as well. And you can just tell, he's a good guy. He's one of the good ones, and he deserves everything that's coming to him. So happy for him.
Yeah, for sure.
One question I had quick is, you mentioned 3 different coaches, 4 different offensive coordinators. I think that's one thing a lot of people don't really recognize is like, chemistry with your OC and your coach is huge as a quarterback. Yep. And, it can be pretty turbulent to have new guys. Who is the favorite coach that you had ever worked with? And along with that, who is your favorite athlete that you had gotten to work with over your career?
It's a good question, Joe.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's tough to compare people because I feel like always one of them or a bunch of people get slighted in that way. But I don't know. I think personally, like I really do believe Coach Hoke was just a great guy, a great recruiter, and did things the right way. And as you can see, he's having some success at San Diego State as well right now. So personable, like he's a guy, a guy that comes in and changes the program is Harbaugh. I believe, he did a great job with that, and it took some time, but you've seen what they're able to do the past few years. X's and O's, I believe Jed Fish is one of the smartest guys I ever played for. He's the head coach of Arizona now and doing well. His playbook was one of the thickest books I've ever seen in my life, and that was thankfully the only time I ever played in an offense for 2 years was under him, and it took me all 2 years to learn that. But his play calling, he comes from the Shanahan tree, so a lot of those guys, you see, all of them now they're doing really, really well. But a big thing about them is they never really run the same play out of the same formation. Right. Ever. So, there's always motions, there's always different formations, there's always shifts, but like to get into the same result. And that's kind of one of the biggest things I learned from him is not showing the same look over and over again in a game.
It's a defense that's such a nightmare.
Exactly. Right.
Such a nightmare.
Yeah. So, and you run the same plays or the same route concepts. It's just from, a shift, a different look, different formation, getting guys in the same spots, but just starting in different areas. And then what we had at Central Michigan with Coach O was something that was completely foreign to me. I've been in a pro style offense my entire life, and then committed to Central actually when Gino Guidugli was the offensive coordinator.
Still is the OC, yeah.
He ran a pro style offense with Cooper Rush, and I saw what they ran that year. The 4 years with Coop, and I was like, yeah, this is what I do. This is what I'm built for here. And then really like pretty soon before I got there, he left to go to Cincinnati, and Coach O came in and I met with him, and it was a little late in the process for me to kind of switch it up again. Yeah. But I met with him. I knew we had the team around us, and him running that RPO offense, and people don't really realize that no one on that team knew what the hell we were doing. No one in that team has ever ran an RPO offense. Everyone, all those seniors, juniors have spent 4 or 5 years in a pro style offense, pro style terminology, all of this stuff, and then you get a new guy coming in from Northern Michigan or Michigan Tech and running a complete RPO offense with foreign language, no huddle, no cadence, throwing the ball a crazy amount of times a game, so it wasn't just new for me, it was new for everybody on the whole team, and then everybody on the whole team has also never played with me.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of things that we had to get right in camp, and then and we did. I mean, obviously it didn't start great, but like as we got into that middle of the season, kind of everything started to click. We started to pick up the offense, and he's now the offensive coordinator at Yale. He is doing awesome. He invited me out to the Yale-Harvard game this year, so I'm probably going to go out there. Nice. He said he's going to treat me to the VIP experience, so we'll see. It's one of the bucket list games. I know his Jersey talk, he can overpromise a little bit some things, but
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I think you undersell the athleticism though that you displayed, and maybe you just had to get thrown into the situation to figure out that you're more than a pro style quarterback. John, if you want to show a couple of the clips that we have queued up, I remember seeing this, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Like, I thought this kid was supposed to be like a pro style, like stay in the pocket, I only throw the ball. He comes out first start at CMU and does this shit. And I think this is where we're like, okay, we might have a little bit of something going on here.
Might have a guy here.
Just flat out hurdles and land. Yeah, that was the SportsCenter top 10 play.
This is the
laser
cannon arm.
Throwing the ball.
Yeah.
There's the arm talent drops it
Yeah,
right
they
there.
threw me on the Sports Center top 10 for that. I was pretty pumped.
Yeah, that was
Then we went into
those
triple
are
overtime with Rhode Island, so that wasn't
yeah,
great.
pulled it off, pulled it off though. Yeah, I mean, so definitely, maybe selling yourself short on the athleticism thing and saying just pro style, but we found out rather quickly that Sugar Shane was not just throwing the ball. Where did that nickname start, by the way? I mean, I felt like I saw it even when you were in high school, or was that like,
Yeah, so it started the ESPN like Gridiron Kings. I got invited as a sophomore. I was the only sophomore to get invited. So they flew down to Orlando, Florida, and we played in this ESPN massive 7-on-7 tournament with some of the top players in the country. And we did pretty well. We made it to the semifinals. The semifinals got played on ESPN that year, and the announcer was talking, and then one of the guys on the field was started screaming "Sugar Shane." And then kind of was on ESPN, and people started saying it, and it kind of stuck. And then some of the high school buddies, especially Josh Cox, just loved it. So they
of
were
course,
calling me that for the next 2 years.
a
And
sweet
then
nickname.
there it is. Yeah,
There it is, man. Sugar Shane lives on forever.
yeah. Yeah, it's funny because it's mostly. I think it was a lot of people in Michigan didn't call me it, but it was when I got to Central. I think
It picked
Josh.
back up.
Well, Josh
Yeah,
just referred to me at like that's what he called. He just called me Sugar. So like that's what everyone at Central just started calling me, and I was like, all right, roll with it.
it's a great nickname. Why would you? Yeah, why not? Not mad
And
about it.
that's all the Central boys still. That's all I call me, Shug.
Yeah, Sugar Shane, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Quick question too, pro career wise, AFL, and then also, you spent some time chatting with the Lions. If you want to talk about that at all, either of those experiences.
Yeah, so I got picked up in minicamp with the Lions after I was training down in Miami, and then didn't get drafted, went undrafted, and then got signed or picked up by Detroit. So I went to minicamp with Detroit. Was there for a little while. Loved. I mean, it was a great experience. I threw on a Lions jersey, a Lions helmet, and got to suit up for the team. I grew up
Hometown
watching
team.
and
Yeah.
hometown team. I was in the Lions locker room as a player in the weight room working out and on their field. So it was really it was kind of a unbelievable experience. I knew that's obviously where I wanted, but kind of when I got there, I realized probably wasn't happening for me. So because they just signed Matt Castle like literally 2 days before I got there because they had Stafford, Jake Rudock, and then they didn't have a third, so I got picked up, and I was like, "There's an opportunity for me to make this roster." And then I think a day before I got there, they signed Matt Castle. So
It's
I
an
was like,
unforgiving sport, man. I mean,
"Yeah,
it's just
yeah."
it's unforgiving. Like just so close. What was it like playing, teaming up with those guys for the time that you were there, learning from them and just kind of competing with them?
It was awesome, man. It was an incredible experience. Me and another quarterback came in, and I ended up taking most of the reps. I was doing really well. I was studying my ass off, for the slight opportunity that I might get a chance, or coach might go somewhere else and would like to bring me on. But it was awesome. We were there with on Johnson just got drafted. The lineman, who's this the center?
Ragnow?
Ragnar Frank just got drafted then. So I was hanging out with all those guys. Frank's a great dude. I mean, obviously still killing it. Staff, was what it was at that point. Patricia was in there. It was an interesting time to be a Lions fan, and it was even more interesting to be in that
Be a
locker room.
player. Yeah.
So
I can imagine.
yeah, it was great. I mean, Jim Bob Cooter was it was the OC. So being just honestly, just I have no complaints. Obviously I would have wished I would, I'd still be playing the NFL, but just being able to get that experience of being, in those team meeting rooms, being in that locker room, being on the field in the weight room is something I'll have, and I'll, kind of have those memories for the rest of my life.
It's a very different locker room and roster nowadays. How are you feeling kind of as a Lions fan
Yeah.
about, the direction that MCDC and Brad Holmes has kind of taken this new team?
I love it. I love it. Campbell he's what Detroit needs. He's kind of the embodiment of the culture of the city. I think he's perfect for that. He actually worked at Central Michigan. He came and did a private workout with me and Tyler Conklin when he was with the Saints. So I threw with him, got to chat with him, and he was just an awesome guy, super intense, but like very, very nice, personable. Have a conversation with him. And then when the Lions picked him up, I was like, this is perfect for Detroit. And then obviously Jared's doing a great job. I know Jared; he was in the same year as me in the Elite 11 and everything, so we spent a lot of time together in high school through camps, the camp circuit and everything. And he's a great guy, and he's having some success, and he's primed for a big year. But I love the direction of the team. I think they're doing great things. I love the draft this year. Obviously, I don't know how I feel about the Chiefs game. Open
Yeah,
find
season.
out.
I think we
Yeah.
can do
Find
it.
out.
I think we can pull
Hey,
it off.
Can't think of a better time to play the defending Super Bowl champions than week 1 prime time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
prime
let's
time.
go.
Catch a little hangover.
One last question I got for you, and Mark, I don't know if you have any left as well, but as a Michigan fan, watching Jabril Peppers play was maybe my favorite player I've ever seen in my entire time being a Michigan fan. He was so fun, so explosive, kind of like our generation's like Charles Woodson as far as the things that he was able to do on the field. What was it like, having that guy as a teammate and, watching him make those same ridiculous plays that we were watching him make on TV at the Big House?
Yeah, it was incredible. And he really was doing that from day one. He came in as a true freshman and was doing our 7-on-7 workouts in the off season that summer, just eating every workout, killing it on 7-on-7 on defense, and then also, he was doing some offensive stuff as well for us. Probably the best athlete I ever played with. Definitely. It's hard to pick somebody else. There's probably some guys that are a little bit close, but yeah, the things he did, on the field and in every position he could play, it was just mind-boggling, and it was, a privilege, honestly, to be on the team and watch him do it. And we had some formations in there my junior year where we run like we call it Navy, and then he would be running back and I would be a quarterback. And then I would pitch him the ball and then turn around and lead block for him. So that was when I was about 230. Yeah, not doing that these days.
That's awesome.
But yeah, there's a few pictures of me of lead blocking for Jabril Peppers, so I'll be able to show my kids that one day.
Yeah, I remember a couple of those plays too. It was so cool. Yeah.
I do have one last question too, Shane. The obviously the importance of this game increases, it seems like every single year somehow, but the game, right? You were able to be a part of that a few times. Why is that game so special? What makes it so different? The rivalry so intense compared to anything else you've been a part of or anything else you've witnessed?
Yeah, I think it's just the history, what it's built up. From Bo and Woody days, even before that, but really kind of emphasizing and on that era. Just it's something special, and it's really hard to explain too because there's a feeling around it. Like that whole week is just very, very different than anything else. Like obviously Michigan State's a big game and it's in-state rival and it means a lot, but it's just the history and the players that have played in that game and the moments that have happened in that game. It's a whole nother level. And as you've seen, throughout history, nothing what you've done that entire year matters before that game because you're going to get everyone's 110%. You're going to get the best performance from every player on that field, every single play, giving 100% no matter what. And frankly, you just don't get that a lot in other games. So, the score is always reflective of it. It's always a close game. The better team, usually like sometimes doesn't win. But I think the focus that Harbaugh has put on that game recently in recent years, doing, beat Ohio period in practice, things like that is really emphasized and, kind of put it on another level on that. And I think you've seen the past, 2 years, what they've been able to do on the field.
Yeah,
And it's just been incredible.
Obviously their game plan's been great in the last 2 years, but it's like the passion, like it just meant more to the guys on the Michigan sideline. You could just tell, like, especially that snow game, the first time they beat them in, I don't even know how many years, like it just meant more. Like Aiden Hutchinson and some of these guys, you could just see like nothing else in the world mattered in those 3 hours of game time. It just was everything in the world to beat Ohio. Like,
it is. It is. And, we went 0-4 in my 4 years in Michigan, and it was demoralizing. It was embarrassing and, frankly, not acceptable. and it kind of carried through, and it was before that. So these guys being in Michigan, how many years I forgot it was we beat them, but just finally, you saw it from alumni, you saw it from former players, just kind of the relief of like, yes, like it's finally over.
Yeah. And doubling
And then
down and doing it again this year.
yeah, and then last year's game was just incredible. It was so much fun to watch. Donovan I was just going off. Those guys, I mean, it's going to be an awesome year. I'm so excited for them. The team's going to be great, and then Donovan and Blake and JJ back there. It's a heck of a backfield. Yeah,
special for sure. That's all we had. John, you have any last minute questions? He might be frozen here. You're there, John?
Yeah, no, we're running into some technical difficulties. We'll edit it out. Yeah, no worries. Sorry about that.
All good.
But
yeah, that's all I got.
Shane, we really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, we really do.
Thanks for having me, guys. It was fun.
It was an awesome interview. I mean, just you have such a cool story, such a so much adversity you overcame. Obviously, a lot of highs, some lows, but what an awesome story you have. A lot to be proud of, and I think people will really enjoy hearing. From just the honesty that you speak with from beginning to the end of your career. Just awesome stuff, man. Really appreciate you having on.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.